Today, I really wanted to do something that I feel like all of the caregivers out there were probably intelligent, accomplished people who have done a lot of things. I've done a lot of personal growth work in my life, and I'm finding as I'm learning more and more about caregiving, I'm not applying what I should already know. I mean, I should know some of this stuff. So it's really good to go back in, and I've been like all over the internet trying to learn things. And now I want to share some of the things that I've just learned again for the 19th time, and then it's applying what you learn, and one of the things that I heard that I'll just share off the top as a statistic. In one place I saw 53 million, another place I saw 70 million
Wow.
caregivers out there. 1 in 4 adults is the caregiver of their parent or spouse. And this is the time in their life when, like you say all the time, this is one of the hardest jobs you never applied for. And so there are a
Absolutely.
lot of people out there that probably feel like we do, that they could use a few tips. And so this is really going to be a workshop. And what we are asking you to do is get your notebook out, get some pen, pencil,
Now,
whatever.
if you're driving, do not stop.
Yeah.
Don't get a wreck getting your piece of paper out of your glove box. We don't want any
Yeah,
losses.
if you're driving, obviously that's a disclaimer right there. But we think that this could be something you can go back to. Obviously, you can come back and watch this episode anytime that you feel like you need a refresher. But maybe if you have a piece of paper in front of you, it will help you to actually track it for yourself. Because as all the experts come on our show, they tell us every situation is different. Every family is different. Every person that's being caregiven to is different. So we all have our own
Absolutely.
unique situations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad we're doing this because I do feel like having practical tools that you can actually take with you, you can implement. And it is a habit, right? If you look at Dr. Carolyn Leaf does research and she's a neuroscientist, she talks about it takes 3 sets of 21 days to change a habit. And
Wow.
oftentimes as a caregiver, we get into these habits and both bad habits and good habits, right? And so, what we want to talk about today is really going to be, I think, powerful for caregivers to help them to create new habits that are going to help them to cope with these difficult times and the difficult, season that they're in and get a little laughter back into it because that's what we're all about, right?
Right.
Laugh so you
So
don't cry.
we had one of our experts on earlier, Dr. Julia Guarini, and she was talking about stress and different ways of dealing with stress and everything but she said something that really stuck with me, and that's identifying where your triggers are at. And that I didn't even know I had any triggers, right? I mean, I've heard of it, but what's really a trigger? So what I learned from going on the internet is if you can find a way to start to create your own little guide here. So I've got my triggers, and my triggers are when my mom continues to repeat the same story, and it seems to be like negative stories, and she's repeating them over and over. And I hear it, and I go into, I stop breathing. I get kind of like angry inside, and I can feel myself kind of clenching my teeth. So this is not a good sign. I don't think this is.
Not a good sign. And some of
And
the
I kept
triggers
this kind of like,
that
and then right on the heels of that is the shame on me. That's the
the
thought that goes
guilt.
along with it, like shame on me for even having that thought. So we want you to do this for yourself. It's a trigger sheet that allows you to start to identify that you even have a trigger. Most of us aren't even aware that we have a trigger. So on the first column, you're going to put the word trigger, and you're going to write something down. I wrote, my mom repeats the same old story. The second column, you're going to say, what is my bodily reaction to that trigger? I'm clenching my teeth. I'm holding my breath. I'm whatever it is for you, whatever that is. And then the next thing, which is the most important piece, is what is the thought that's going through your brain at the same time this trigger thing is all happening? And mine is typically shame on me. So that's guilt. I'm feeling guilty that or even having this thought. There's a thought associated with it. When you get all of this together, we're going to ask you to just pause right now and take the time to think. If you're driving, just take the time right now just to think about what are those things that you can start to identify, because there's more than one trigger that we all have. And starting to identify them starts to take some of the power away from it too.
Go ahead and pause this podcast for a moment. Take them time to just think about it. Write it down if you're not driving. And if you're driving, just pause this podcast and just think for a few minutes, because I do think there's something really valuable in identifying those triggers.
Okay, so we're back. And the next thing that I thought was really one of those helpful tools that we can all easily do, and these are all free, which is even better, is to start to create that community, that caretaking community, not feeling like you have to be the only one doing this, whether it's your family or whatever. So this is, again, something that I saw on the internet that I thought was great. And it's 3 different columns. The first column is family. The second column is friends. And then the last column is professionals. So under each one of those categories now, you can start to say, wow, I thought I was the only one doing this and I had to take it all on myself. Well, that's a lot of pressure and that creates burnout. But if you can start to say, like, okay, what can my family do? Could they send a note to mom? Could they call mom? Whatever, could they, if they live close by, can they do one of the doctor visits, with the friends? Can I ask someone to take mom to go get her nails done rather than me having to do it and take 3 hours out of my day? And what about professionals? Can I bring in a caretaker? Maybe I need to, I've actually hired a therapist, and about once every 6 weeks, I talk to that person. And so, like, starting to have these people that are your care group. These are people. I mean, I had a young friend recently who had some surgery, and she had this chart, and she had people bring me a meal, walk my dogs, like all these different things that people can do for you. So Tina,
Absolutely. So as you're saying that, that's one of the biggest things that I see with caregivers and burnout is they don't stop and think about who is in their circle. It takes a village, right? Just like when we're raising kids, when we're dealing with a senior parent, it also takes a village. And making this list so that you're really cognizant of it. I mean, there's even a software created now, and I think I've mentioned before.
We'll have that on this episode, right? Where people can go in and
we'll put it down below. But when you make this list that Melinda is describing, right, it helps you start thinking through who are those people, because you're not alone. And oftentimes I hear from others, well, they just don't ask, so I didn't even know there was a need. And the caregiver saying, I didn't want to put that pressure on them because I know they're busy. So if there's a way to make a list or an email chat with the key people in your family, your friends, or utilizing that software, then you know that you're going to be able to have them just like pick up that need versus you feeling like you're going to call, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? It gives you a place to unload it without the guilt, right?
Right. Well, and when it's pre-planned also, we're going to get into that in another one of these little modules that we have, because it does have to be scheduled. So you can count on it, and that person knows that they're scheduled for that, as opposed to like a last minute thing. And then you really feel guilty about asking people. So we have to do it in a form or fashion that works. So now it's your turn to stop and think about putting this little chart together. These are the 3 categories. Family, what can you expect or ask your family to do that you're not asking them to do now? What's happening with the friends? Who are some of your friends that could take? Who are your parents' friends, maybe neighbors, you don't know who that is. And then sometimes the professionals, where can you get help that you need help to support you? So now 60 seconds for you to start to create this care team for your parent or your loved one.
Again, just put it on pause for a second and take the minute to do that for yourself. I think you'll be amazed at how many people you really find that are willing to help you and support your parent.
If you recall, we had a guest expert on the other day, and she said, you have to ask.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because people are sometimes waiting for a sign, like, how can I be of service? We say like, oh, please God, let me be of service somewhere on the planet. Well, no one's asked me, right? So it's a good time to get that prayer met.
Absolutely.
Okay. And now we're back to one that I think is very key for a lot of people, and it really kind of overlays on pretty much every relationship we have in our lives. And it's the ability to set boundaries. And Tina, you're really good at this. So I'm going to let you kind of lead this, and then I'll just interject a few ideas here and there.
Oh, boundaries are so important because what happens in caregiving is that we start doing everything and we don't have any boundaries. We can be called any time of day. We can be woken up, all those things. And oftentimes, not only is a caregiver getting burned out, but the parent has no boundaries and they literally will wake up in the middle of the night and call their child. And so it's really important to have those conversations. If your parent has dementia, it may be more difficult to set those boundaries with them. However, if you have a caregiver that's caring for them, you need to set those boundaries with the caregiver. I am not available from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. unless it's an emergency with my mother.
Right. I actually put my phone on do not disturb, because I noticed that my mom has a little bit of that, like in the evening, gets more upset, and it's not a good time to have a conversation, so, but there is a designation on your phone, right, Tina, that you can set.
Absolutely. So if you put the numbers in your favorites, it allows that person, even though you're on do not disturb, if they call twice, it'll go through. And so there's a setting on your telephone. You can do that. You can Google it. It'll teach you step by step how to do it. But it's really important because then if it is an emergency, they call you back the second time, it comes through, because you don't want to not receive the emergency calls. But boundaries like that, boundaries like, okay, I am working 9 to 5, so I'm only allowed to be called during that time. Because oftentimes what happens is the individual caring for their parent is distracted even at work, and it affects their work. And you've heard many times of caregivers ending up getting terminated because they're so distracted with phone calls from the caregiver or from their parent. And so having other family members that can check in with mom and set the boundary of, like, I need you, and asking for the help, like you talked about. I need you to call mom twice a day during the day. You're not working. You might be in, Washington, D.C., but you can reach out. And so having those boundaries with your family as well of, I cannot be disturbed unless it's an emergency. So you have to take that responsibility. And so again, we had one of our counselors that was on, and she talked about one of the biggest issues is people don't plan ahead. So plan those types of things. Set your boundaries of what works for you. Look at your family, your relationship with your spouse, with your children, your business, and what boundaries do you need to set so that you can be attentive to them? Because if the rest of your life starts falling apart because you're not paying attention to it, then it's not a good thing for you, and you're not going to be present for the person you're caring for, and you're going to get more and more resentful. So it's really important.
So I'm going to read something. This was a script that I saw online that I thought was really, really great, because I think sometimes people don't even know how to phrase the request, the boundary kind of request. And this one said, I love mom, right? And I'm doing everything I can for mom. So you're saying maybe this to your parent, your brothers and sisters, whatever. And for me to continue to show up as my best self, which is the person I want to be, I need you, my brother or sister or neighbor, whatever, to call mom, to take mom to this, to whatever. And I'll check in with you and see how that went, so it's allowing you to be very strong and not feel guilty about requesting some time for yourself, or that someone else take on. And I hate to use the word burden. Let's use the word responsibility, honor. It's like, it's a double-edged sword sometimes. It feels good to be able to do it, and at the same time, it feels sometimes exhausting. So it's good to share that with the people that love that person too.
I think it's a strong way of setting the boundary, and it gives them clear expectations of, you call, I will connect with you, and this is why I need it. Because oftentimes they don't realize what you're going through because you're not having that communication with them as well. So
Right.
communicating so they understand what your day to day looks like with your parent also is really helpful for them,
Right.
because oftentimes siblings that live out of state, they just don't know. It's not that they don't care, they just don't know.
Right. We just had Pam Wilson. Is that right?
Mhm.
And she talked about having a family plan. And I think this enters into that whole conversation too. So if you haven't seen that episode, go back and watch that episode,
Yes,
because it's really key to n- not having resentment build up, and sharing the wealth, the wealth of taking
absolutely.
care of your parent or spouse. It's really important. So what we're going to ask you to do right now is pause again and take the next minute to think about, like, how can I use this phraseology? Write your statement. You're setting a boundary statement for yourself right now, and maybe who you want to say that to. You want to say it to your neighbor, you want to say it to your brothers or sisters, you want to say it to some other caregiver that's involved with this challenge and this time in our life, this season as we call it. And so for the next 60 seconds, just think. And if
And
you're
I want to
driving,
add something to that
yeah,
before they
sure, please.
pause. So if you're thinking about what that'd be and you're like, I have no idea how to say it without them getting mad at me, or how, just maybe take the 60 seconds to write out what your boundaries need to be. Like, what are the things that you need to set some boundaries around because you're noticing that you're not managing them well, or that it's causing too much stress at home, etc. And then a tool that's amazing nowadays, you could literally, after you listen to the podcast, go back and go ask Chat GPT, like, how do I make a sentence to my brother or my sister that sounds loving but that sets my boundary? And just tell them what your goal is. You want to have a strong relationship with your brother, you want to, you want to, and Chat will actually create some options and tell it, give me like 10 options. And you can, ask it for that, and you have 10 options, and then you go, this one sounds the most like me, most authentic, because you
Yeah,
want it to be something you would do. So just a little tip and tool. So
right.
take this time to really evaluate, what are your boundaries you need to set. That's so important.
Right. It's a good point. Most people don't take the time to think about this. That's why this little workshop is invaluable if you do it. You can listen to it, you can watch it, but if you actually, for you, you have to make it your own for it to really have impact in your life. Okay, so we're back. And this next portion of our workshop, we're talking about reframing things. And I remember this word from coaching that I've done in the past, and this whole concept of looking at it from a little different angle and being able to almost rewire your brain to think things differently, see it a different way. For example, one of the questions is, what am I assuming is true, but I don't really know that it's 100% true? Sounds like a strange question. The second one was, if a friend was in this exact situation, what advice would I give to my friend? Because now you're seeing it like almost like I've always heard this one also. Imagine that you're a director up here manipulating the characters in the movie of your life. What would that director say to that character right now in this time? Which I think is another way of looking at it. And what's one, Tina, I'm going to let you take this one. Can you see this one? What's one minor thing I can change and control today? I think
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah. So that is huge. And I will say oftentimes those mantras, those phrases that we're saying to ourselves are, we're not good enough. I'm not doing this right. I'm not doing enough. I'm a horrible daughter or son. I feel guilty because I have these emotions. All those statements of feelings, they're real. You feel that way, right? But the reality is, you're not a horrible daughter. You're not a horrible son. It's just difficult. And so, really reframing some of the way we speak versus saying, I'm a horrible daughter. You know what? I love my mom and I'm doing the best I can. And I'm grateful that I get to have her. versus oftentimes, especially if you're stressed out and you're burned out. So it's really important not to get to that place is, here she goes again. I'm going to have to take care of her. Well, taking care of our parents is a blessing. So if we see it as a blessing, it makes it so much easier. So just reframing those sentences from I get to take care of her, I get to be there for her versus I have to. I'm the drudgery of it, right? It just
Right.
changes and shifts your brain.
Right. So one of the things that we're going to ask you to look at is go back to that first section where we talked about the triggers. Think of one of your triggers, what's happening, and use that as the example. Mine was, my mom tells the same story over and over again. So then go back through these 3 questions. So we'll have these questions for you so that you can, work your way through them. What am I assuming to be true? That she doesn't remember that she said this? Okay, that could be true. Like now you're starting to think like, oh, okay, well, she doesn't even remember that she said this. Why am I getting all frustrated about it? It's not like she's doing it on purpose or something like that. And you're asking a friend, what would your friend do in this situation? Okay, my friend, what do I do? My mom's da da da. And she goes, think about how long your mom has been there for you, your whole life, 70 years now, your mom's been there for you. Like you do this with your mom too, Tina. I know you say like, you'll think of like 3 cheerleader things that your mom does for you
Yeah,
when you're having
absolutely.
those moments. But you think about the trigger. She's doing it. I'm feeling myself getting triggered. And here's another way if I can see it from a different angle, it will help me get through and be that loving daughter that you and I both want to be.
Absolutely.
So, and then I think that's one small thing I could change. If I was thinking again about that story, saying the same story over and over again, I think that would be, okay, Melinda, can you see the levity in this? If I just say to myself, so we laugh so we don't cry piece, that like, can I see the levity and the humor in this? Like, what if this was a comedy skit on Saturday Night Live, or something like that? And then it makes me giggle. And then I go, okay, that shifted my energy, that
Yeah.
rewired my brain a little bit, and it made it easier.
Well, and one of mine that helps me with a lot of my phrasing is 2 simple words. So what?
Yeah.
So what that I might hear something multiple times? Does it really hurt me? So what that she may not remember something? Does it really affect me? And when we really think about the brevity, how important that is in the scheme of the big life, so what? It really doesn't make that much difference. It means you have to have a little bit more patience for a few minutes, right? But in life, if we start looking at what used to be negatives as, so what? Does it really matter that much?
Right. Right.
Then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you're right, really. So what? So I listened to it twice, big deal. I listened to it 5 times, big deal. Like, because in the scheme of it and the 90 something years of, years with mom, her caring for us, does it really matter?
Right. 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 Yeah. It's that reframing it in a way that you can get your head around and
I have to do
like
that to myself on a lot of areas. And I use that for everything, for a lot of things in my life, not
all the
just,
relationships, all the
yes,
relationships we have in our
this
life.
is this is
This is not just the caregiver relationship. It definitely, yeah. And I will say that there was one other thing that just popped up when you were saying that too, is one of our other speakers who was on. So sometimes you're just like, you'll see this one, and then we hope you'll go back and watch some of the other episodes that we have and subscribe and all that good stuff too. Was that she said, make your parents, whoever your care, feel like you are on their team. Like
absolutely.
I know just how you feel about that. I remember that. Blah blah blah. Like be on the team rather than feeling like you're the boss of the team. You're on the team, and that creates a
Absolutely.
whole different energy in itself too. I love that as a tip, and I think that fits in here. So we hope that you'll take time right now, next 60 seconds, think about your trigger, think about how you could reframe it in a way so that it is more palatable, makes you happier, puts a smile on your face. And we'll be right back in just a second. Okay. Hey, so now we're back, and this is going to be a little interesting because it's going to take a little technology for us to accomplish this, and hopefully it will work out. Because what we wanted to do is we've had people on that would talked about moving our bodies and just kind of shaking it and kind of shifting the energy and deep breathing exercises. And not that those aren't important, those are great, but we wanted to kind of take it up just like a little step deeper with some very specific moves that you can do. If anybody has ever done some physical things where there's something called a cat cow, you arch your back and then you kind of like lower your back. I'm going to demonstrate this in a video for you. Tina's going to lead us through some box breathing in just a second. She's like, well, I am?
Yes. I am? Okay.
And then if you remember as a kid, you used to make snow angels. Another one is you're doing a wall squat where your back's on the wall and your knees are bent. So you look like a chair. And then you're just bringing your arms up and over. So this is a way to just kind of shift all your energy. If you don't have a wall handy and you're just wanting to shift your energy, you can do what I used to do when I was a little girl in ballet class. And that would be a plie, like and I'm going to demonstrate that as well. And then the final one, which I think is so interesting because it looks like you're doing nothing and you're either just standing still, kind of grounding yourself, but you start to pay attention. Can I feel my toes? Can I feel my feet? Can I feel my calves? And then you work your way up your body. And then once you get all the way up to your head, they're like, and can I see 3 or 4 different colors? What you're doing is you're changing your whatever you were thinking about that was a negative thought or negative energy, whatever. You're shifting it because you can't have two thoughts at the same time. Your brain will go to one or the other. So like, can I smell? Is that fresh paint I smell? Or is that spaghetti in there that I'm smelling? You force your brain to like start to have different ideas. So we're going to insert those videos for you to see. But let's go to the box breathing, Tina, because we can do that together right now.
Yeah. So something to think about when you're doing the box breathing, because breathing helps rewire your brain, but also, did you know that gratitude, when you're focused on gratitude, it actually also helps get your sympathetic nervous system, like if you're upset or you're struggling, you're having a bad day, when you're doing that box breathing, look around, look at the colors, look at your parent, look at anything that you can find in the room where you're at and do the breathing. But while you're doing the breathing, think about what you're grateful for and start thinking about those thoughts of what you're grateful for. And if you'll name 3 or 4 things, and even just, oh, how beautiful, like Melinda just was kind of alluding to, how beautiful is that blue in that chair? It's so lovely. It actually changes your chemical balance. It also decreases your heart rate a little bit, lets you calm down, especially if you're having a really tough day, and it will do even more than just the box breathing on its own. So let's do the box breathing. Box breathing is basically in through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out for 4 seconds. Hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4. Back in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4. And then release it for 1, 2, 3, 4. If you will do that multiple times, just try to do 6 to 10 of those box breathing with gratitude simultaneously. Life-changing. In that moment, it will completely get your brain rewired.
Right. So breathe in gratitude, hold, like feel it in your heart.
Hold in that gratitude.
Right? Yeah. Then exhale.
And exhale. While you're holding for those 4 seconds, you can be looking around at the things you're so grateful for. Right. And one of those is our parents. We're so grateful for them. And for those of you, I have to say this out loud, because oftentimes I do have people say, you don't know what my parents did to me. I'm stuck taking care of them. That is a real issue.
Right.
And you know what? It might be the only thing that you can say you're grateful for them, is the fact that you're the wonderful human being that you are. Because having come from trauma as a kid myself, I remember when I started doing that with one of my perpetrators. The only thing I could think of was I learned Spanish. That was something I was blessed because of that person being in my life. So I want to say that to you because it's real. There's a lot of kids that didn't necessarily have the best parents that are now forced to take care of them. And it's harder because you did go through that. And so you're not alone. And I will say, we do give 15-minute free consultations to just talk through some of this. Pam Wilson did a whole video for us. She's a counselor. She does it all over the country. She specializes in this. So we have resources for you. We want to be there for you because you're not alone. So.
Right. Absolutely. What I'd like to do right now, Tina, is just talk through some of those moves a little bit. So the first one that we're going to do is this cat cow. And it's really basically you're on all fours, you're on your knees, and you're going to arch your back like a cat, and you're going to drop your head, and you're going to feel that nice arch all the way in your back. And then that's an exhale. And then as you inhale, you're going to let your back like have a sway back. So your hips kind of like point up to the ceiling, and your shoulders kind of point up to the ceiling, and your head comes up, but you have kind of like the sway back. And then you do that, repeating that multiple times. So again, you're getting that rotation in your back, you're loosening up your shoulders, your hips are getting released, and all of that is giving you that peacefulness, changing your energy, shifting it. And these are meant to be like little 6 minutes a day, just a few minutes a day that you're going to do this for yourself. You're going to repeat the box breathing that Tina guided us through. And then you're going to do like a snow angel on the wall, where you are going to sit on the wall, basically. And it's like a chair pose. And then you're just going to bring your arms up overhead like a ballerina and then back down. If you don't have a wall and you want to do this, it's like a simple plie. If you haven't seen a plie recently in a 70-year-old, you're going to see it today. Anyway, and so your feet are about 2 feet apart. Distance-wise, they're a little beyond hip width, and you're going to just bend your knees. And as you bend your knees and you leave your back straight as possible, you're not leaning forward as you're doing this. You're trying to come down as a solid plane, and you're going to lift your arms up over your head and then bring them back down, kind of swing them in front of your legs, and then go back up. And again, so you're inhaling up and exhaling down, and inhaling up and exhaling down. And just keep repeating that for the next 30 to 60 seconds. Again, it's an energy shift for you. And then the last one is where we're going to have you just standing still. This is so hard for most of us, right? Just imagine now, just the trick to this one is to be so present that you can feel everything that I'm mentioning to you. So your eyes can be closed at first, so you can start to be grounded to the earth. Imagine that this beautiful planet that was created for us to live on, and your feet are just feeling the energy come into them. You're feeling your toes grip the floor. Now imagine that you can feel the weight shifting to your heels. You can feel your ankles, and you're just working your way up your body into your calves. You might want to tighten them a little bit. Your knees are not locked solid. There's just a little bit of softness to them, working your way up to your thighs. Can you feel those? Now tuck your bottom under a little bit. Lift your ribs up. Bring your shoulders down, and then bring your hands to your side and rotate your thumbs outward as if you're hitchhiking on both sides. Your shoulders should be down and relaxed. Imagine that there's a string right at your collarbone lifting you up. And now open your eyes and start to see the room. See how many colors you can see. Let your eyes rest somewhere for a moment and just relax and look somewhere else. Notice if you can taste anything. Notice if you can smell anything. Pull in all the senses that you possibly can. And you're going to hold that for about 60 seconds. And now ready to come back into our bodies. Sometimes just shake it off a little bit. Sometimes we shake it off, don't we, Tina? We shake it off, shake it off. Okay, that's another good energy shifter too, is to just shake everything off a little bit. So we're kind of ending up here at a really interesting spot too, because this is probably on this last section of our little workshop together is how to put your life, how to have control of your life and make this caregiving piece not take over everything in your life. And to also give yourself a little credit for what you're doing. Because I think that's one of the things that a lot of us we just don't know how to give ourselves credit. So this is getting your calendar out and taking these blocks, 2-hour blocks. Like these 2 hours, I'm going to do X for me. And every Tuesday afternoon, these 2 hours are my 2 hours. I'm having a date with myself to whatever you want to do. To actually schedule in your 30-minute or 10-minute or 2-minute walk, whatever it is for you, wherever you're starting out. Some people are going to go out on a 5-mile walk. Great, good for you. It's fantastic. Also, how are you bringing together? We want to also talk about bringing together the caregivers that you have in your life. So those could be your neighbors, those can be your family members, those can be the professionals, like making sure that they're all in there, programmed in, because we talked about having that care team for your family, making sure that's in the calendar and that you're doing it. And then as you accomplish any of these things, you put a big old check mark on it, or you put a little C behind it, completed. And there's something that gets rewired in the brain. Again, we talk about how important it is that if we are now saying like, wow, I didn't realize I did all that. It could be like, I made my bed today. I made my bed and I feel proud of that. I did my exercises today. So like all of these things that you can put your little check mark beside. And that you have pull it up there, Tina. It's like,
I think it's really important.
Now, do you highlight when you finish something? Do you highlight it like you finished it?
I do. I mark it out, and just like a to-do list, right? Because oftentimes when we're parents, when we're caregivers, we don't put ourselves as a priority. And so it's really important to have it. I remember John Maxwell always said, I look at the beginning of my year, and the healthiest way for me, even as a business leader, is to mark off my vacations, my me time, my family time, everything first. And so as a caregiver, it's the same thing. You have a lot of responsibilities. However, you have this whole other side of world besides the caregiving that you have to be intentional. And that's why boundaries are so important as well. So planning ahead is so key.
Right. And what I've been reading, that if you do this, if you actually take the time to write down all the things that you're doing and that you're accomplishing and you're taking credit for, because you're not taking credit for them normally. I mean, I got mom to and from the eye doctors. Check. Yay me. Woohoo. Be proud of yourself for it. That you will notice over time that your anxiety and stress will be greatly reduced, as much as 50% reduction, because you're seeing it all from a different angle and you're giving yourself a little credit for what you have done. Right, Tina?
Love that. Yes, absolutely. It's so powerful. And it's interesting because as you write it down, you mark it out, you have this sense of accomplishment. And sometimes when you're caregiving, you don't feel like you're accomplishing anything. You feel like you're always falling behind. And that's not truth. And so when you write it down and you're marking it out, it will change your whole perspective.
Right. So I think that these calendars that we're going to be keeping, the care teams, like all of these things all together are really important. We're also going to have below some resources for you too.
Absolutely.
So where you can go for some more support. Obviously, we feel like this is a great place for you to have as your family. Join the Facebook community page. We'll have some different information there. Subscribe, all of that. And there are some apps that are out there that are very helpful too. So we'll list a couple of those that we think that if you can tune into some of this and take care of yourself, then this time in our lives can be joyful. It can be filled with like expanded love, as opposed to like, oh my gosh, it's like you have a choice. We have a choice on how we have this last experience with our parents.
Absolutely, we do. And we get to choose laughter and joy.
We do.
All right. Well, it's been great. And I think this is great practical information for you to implement. We'll have it all below. And if you need to talk to someone and you just want to reach out, I'll put the link down below for a free 15-minute just conversation about it. And we'll have some resources for you. So we're here for you. You're not alone. And we'll see you on the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe and like and share.
And comment.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Tell us what your tips are. I would love to hear what you have. Yeah. What has helped you?
We can do a whole other workshop with just ideas from
Absolutely.
That'd be fabulous.
And one of the things that we are going to do, and I would love for you to comment down below if you hear this, is we're going to put together a group of caregivers that they give their very best practical tools that they utilized to help them navigate through the caregiving season. So we're going to actually bring a group of caregivers that tell you firsthand what worked for me, what were my biggest obstacles, and how did I overcome them? Because that's what it's about. It's about solutions, not just problems.
I need more solutions.
Yes, exactly. So have a great day. God bless you guys.
Bye.
So join us, pull up a chair, you're strong, you're seen, you're right on time. We laugh, we love, we share, we laugh so we don't cry.